Okay, so a lot we're going to talk about today is the research that UL presented to FDIC, at FDIC, starting more or less in 2014. And then Lieutenant Stedman went out, saw that, brought it back, and brought it in service. We further condensed it down for officer development in 2015. That's what we're bringing to you guys right now. So it should be kind of a review for you, but anything that you want, hey, I remember this slide that from 2014, and I still had a question about it, ask us and try to best answer it. But everything lines up with the research they presented. It's nothing that we're going to present that's new. It's all stuff you can find on UL's website. You can go to the modules. Anything you need, you can find there. So we're not by any means the ones who conduct the tests, or we're not the experts. We're just passing on the information. So why are we doing it? We want to get past being the robot. From an officer standpoint, if all you're practicing is doing your size up, arriving on scene and doing size ups and not really knowing why, just saying, hey, I'm going to size this building up, and then I'm going to take command, and then I'm going to get water supply, and I'm going to check off the boxes. We want to get past that. We want you to start thinking, what do I need to do when I get on scene? What happens if I see fire blowing off the Charlie side? What happens if a hydrant's dead? Whatever. What happens if the hose line breaks? What size of hose line do we need? So hopefully this will help you think, even though it's going to be tough the first couple times you get on scene and then get that size up, this can help you out. We want to be intellectually aggressive. We don't want to just say, hey, we're going to go to the roof every time and vent. There's a time and place to vent. There is. But if we miss that opportunity, we want to realize that we miss it and then move on. Right? We've got to get it some other way, or now we're too late and maybe we're defensive. So you want to be able to be intellectually aggressive, not arbitrarily. We don't really hear much anymore, but when I first came on, I still heard it. This is the way we've always done it. There's been so much change in the last 10 or 12 years around our department that you're not really hearing that much anymore. It seems like the majority of the department, especially in the core city, is open to trying new things and, hey, check this out, I learned this out. But we really don't want to be saying this is the way we've always done it. And marry up your experience and knowledge. Because 20 years, with a guy that's had that time on and then is also training, there's a lot that can be passed on. So you just got to know what's happening.
This one's super dangerous for us because you still see it. 90-ish% of the fires, we go up to the front door, we stretch a pre-neck, we walk through the front door, we put water on the fire goes out, we primary it, we high-five, we pack up, we go home. It's that 10% where we go to the front door, we should have done a real good 360, we probably should have applied water to the exterior or via transition and knocked this thing down before we went through the front door. Where the trap is we get so used to doing that every time that in the time frame that you're trying to get your 360 done, your crew has decided we're just going to walk through the front door and stomp this thing out and get it over with. And you come back and you realize there was an outside porch fire or a heavy fire on the backside you could have transitioned on quickly, and your crew's already committed. It's not what you wanted, and now you're playing catch up and everybody else is playing catch up. And it's resulted in injuries or near line of duty deaths for us because of this. And that's where the trap is for you, is the crews just think, I know what to do. I walk through the front door and put this thing out. And it's those 10% that we can't do that. They just don't give you the opportunity to figure that out.
I think your best bet is to really promote the knowledge factor in all this. As an acting officer, is promote that with your whole crew. Because it's going to be hard. You might act once a set if you're lucky, or maybe once a month. So it's not like you're going to be like, hey guys, let's come together and we're going to learn everything in one day. But like say George, you're driving all the time. If you're acting, you're probably going to be on the same rig. But if it's not present on your crew, which I know it is, but if it's not, then you promote that and be like, hey, let's watch these so we all can be on the same page, so that when you step into the acting officer role, everybody knows, okay, this is what you're thinking, this is what we have to do, this is the things we're paying attention to. So it all started really before it came to FDIC. It started in the early 2000s. FDNY starts asking themselves, why are all our firefighters dying in flashover conditions? Why all of a sudden is everything good and they're fighting fire and then boom, they're engulfed by flames, they can't get out. That's it. And so they started asking questions, and then they turned to NIST, and the two guys up there, Steve Kerber and Dan Madrikowski, they worked together 2002 to 2008. They both have, Kerber has some background in fire, and went there and they started conversing with FDNY, why is it going on? They started doing research. Kerber eventually leaves for UL, but then comes back and they start working, UL and NIST start working together because Madrikowski's still over there. And it all changed and FDNY got Governor's Island. They basically condemned the island, they have all these row homes they can use, older construction, and they start doing all these tests. They videotape, and they can put in all the monitors, they can put in all the research equipment, and figure out what's going on in these fires. They get to light real fires instead of burn buildings. And since that time, you know, this PowerPoint and the slides from UL are 3 or 4 years old now, but they've been Spartanburg, they've been in Milwaukee, Chicago, LA County. It's coast to coast. So all the big departments, you know, Midwest big departments, East Coast, West Coast, they bought in, they're teaching it, they're showing it, and they've invited UL and NIST to their departments to do, you know, like with Milwaukee, it was knee walls and attics. I forget what Chicago or Spartanburg was, but Chicago was, you know, multifamily, two-story townhomes.
Was it Spartanburg basement?
Was it basements? Okay. So the goal of all this is, you know, like Chief said, you got guys going in the front door. Can you put a line to the Charlie side and at least cool it down or make it safer for everybody inside quicker? It's not always the right answer. Sometimes you got to go inside. Sometimes that's the best move. But if you have more knowledge, you can possibly put the fire out faster and more efficiently. Or you can give yourself a chance to go inside and get the search done, or give yourself the ability to make it to the roof if you need to by buying yourself time by resetting the fire. Reducing probability of injury or death. We've been fortunate. We don't have a line of duty death. I mean, we have people who died on the way to work or like that, but we have not really lost somebody at a fire or a scene. So, you know, it's just pure luck at this point, I think. But if we keep working at learning this stuff and making sound decisions, then we can keep that under 0. That's the goal. So as we all know, the work environment's changed, so we have to evolve. Larger homes, especially true down in 13's area, so we all know this. Bigger open spaces, fuel loads are much greater, and you get more void spaces. You know, the biggest one of the biggest ones is that I think is a change in building materials. And when I think of building materials, I also think of what's inside. Like everything in that open space picture, you know, used to be made of kind of material, real wood, and not synthetics, not polyurethane, you know, so it's burning faster, not hotter, just faster. It's getting to that flashover point. And your building materials, your collapse. It's going to collapse sooner. I mean, this is all review for you guys pretty much, right? I mean, any questions on it?
The difference is you're looking at it differently. You know, whether it's roof systems, you know, how often are you guys paying attention to roof systems? Is it a shingled roof? Is it one of those simulated tile roofs with the interlocks in place? Are you paying attention to those? Because they look like they're intact. I mean, we've had fires, there's video out there where it looks like you have an intact roof system, and as they sound the roof, the whole thing caves in because the underlayment burns away. Are you staying up to date with that? Are you staying up to date with the change in the void systems and the building materials? Because the new fire code says that we'll put sheetrock on basement ceilings now, which is great. We're going to protect your floor trusses with a layer of sheetrock. But what have I done to the floor truss system so I have room to get all the duct work in there, because I don't want to build boxes around it. I want to make it as smooth as I can for putting sheetrock in. I've made bigger openings to put all my ductwork in up inside the trusses so I can put one layer of sheetrock in smooth and easy. So now I've compromised my flooring system even more. And even though it's protected by 30 minutes of sheetrock supposedly, or an hour of sheetrock, is it intact? Was it mudded properly? Is it edge to edge properly? And has no children ever played down in the basement, made any holes in the sheetrock ever? So just being aware, you're looking at buildings differently as an officer than you are as a firefighter. You have to start looking at buildings differently every day when you go to them. The way you perceive the information has to be different than when you're sitting in the back seat. It has to be.
Everybody remembers this. Just a quick little video. The legacy room obviously has old style furnitures and furnishings. And your modern room is all our new stuff. Everything that's in our houses these days. And it just gets to flash over, I can remember, I think 3 minutes to like 28 minutes or so. Again, remember, this is like when you're coming on scene as an officer and you see this pouring out, I mean, keep in mind that's what's going to light off. That's what those FDNY guys were getting caught in, you know. We still practiced that when I first came on, is you crawl through the smoke until you see the fire. And then it lights up all around you. Now you're in flashover conditions. So pay attention to that. If you're sizing up a building, you first get on scene, or your crew's going in, and you see all that smoke coming out. It feels hot. You can feel it hot up here. And you feel it around your ears. That's cool it off. And we'll talk about, if you can remember, the type of stream you want to use to cool it off and reset it so it doesn't flash over around you. But you gotta get good at your skills, and you gotta move fast, because this doesn't exist anymore. Think about that fire lights up, we get the call, maybe if we're lucky, a minute in, and then by the time this has hit flashover right here, you know, we might be getting out the door. So that might be what you're showing up to. So now you got to worry about it's not room of contents now, it might be in the structure. How long has it been flashed over for?
If we're lucky, it's not sitting there waiting for us in a ventilation controlled environment, and PD's booted the door as you're stretching up on it. Now it goes into that superheated phase. Remember, every piece of modern furniture the size of a love seat it burns at a heat release rate equivalent to a gallon of gasoline burning. Every one. The black smoke coming off is not smoke anymore. It is unburned fuel gases waiting for the right air, fuel, heat mixture to light off. Days of not putting water on smoke are over. We put water on smoke. If it's black, turbulent smoke, it's just waiting for the right mixture to light off, and light off with you and your partner inside of it.
You know, and the difference is now, as an officer, you know, when you're on the hose as a fireman, you just make that decision. You can do it, and it's accepted. But you might have people on your crew that don't understand this. You have to be prepared that. You're going to have to, that's important. Somebody recognizes that. And it can't be, oh, I hope they'll figure it out. I mean, you're going to have to be vocal. That's the difference now. You're going to have to step up and say, put water on that. That's step out of your comfort zone. And if you're the one in charge of that crew and you're on the hose line, you've got to recognize that.
The hard part is you're so used to your view being this big. And now your view is this big. How do you change that mindset? Because you're second or third in the stack. As the firefighter on the front, you're looking at that, where's the fire, how am I putting it out? Now you're looking at everything. Is this thing getting better or getting worse? And now what do we do? And changing that view. It's going to be a change. Looking at the big picture, taking all the information in as the third person, the firefighter, the decision maker in that stack.
So our training props are this. That's a masonry concrete burn building. That's our furniture. That doesn't burn. When we do mistakenly put real furniture in our buildings, when we used to be at RMFA, we got some pretty good fires. But can't do that. That's by accident. They somehow got in.
By accident?
Yeah. But you can't, we can't reproduce what we're seeing in the field. So you have to practice the play here. And our new burn building helps us out because we can kind of create rollover, but we're not going to be able to create the smoke that you can identify. That's why you got to supplement this with those modules, this education. You've got to really stay educated. So look at those videos on YouTube. I mean, you don't have to be all consumed by YouTube videos, but there's a lot of value in them to see, okay, watch that fire scene, look what they did and how did it work. It's another slide for your slideshow. So one of the biggest points, I mean, this PowerPoint was, 100 slides or so long, and they had the 20 top takeaways from all the research. This one is reduced down to, say, 5 or so for officer development or acting officer. So we took the biggest ones, and when you start with number 1, the stages of fire development change, when it becomes ventilation limited. This one's still in the books as the curve, ignition growth, fully developed decay, but this is what we're seeing all the time. We're seeing it on our fires. I can still remember giving this in service in 2015. Actually, you went to the fire. You were dispatched on a fire, and you said, we saw smoke en route, and we got there, and there was nothing. Then you opened the door, and you had the smoke tunnel, right? Weren't you on 8s? I remember it was you, though. Yeah. She's like, yeah, we left the barn, we left the house, there was smoke showing, and then, which it was building, it got vent controlled, and you guys got there, and there was no smoke. And then the door opened up, and then there came the smoke, and there came the smoke tunneling, and then the fire was building. So this is a lot of times where we get to the fire. It's right here. So we let our guard down because, there's not much smoke showing, and then we get surprised when we open the door. It's okay, if that happens, we hope it doesn't happen if we get surprised. But what do we do if we get on scene and it's been limited and we create a ventilation opening and we're not prepared to put water on it? We'll close the door. And now we go. But just be aware that this is really accurate to a lot of the fires that we're going on. We get here, and then when we open the door, whether we got a hose line or not, or we're BESing or forcing entry, we've got to control the door, somehow be aware of it, because it's going to start building. And this little increase right here, the flashover, 60 to 90 seconds. So just be aware of that. You're on the clock.
This happened 2 weeks ago. We're watching the header from headquarters, sadly, from my office. But all of a sudden the header goes away. And you hear the engine arrive on scene, nothing showing, all units slow. And it's a trap. That's a trap. Don't slow everybody until you've investigated. Once you can stage them, they can wait. But if you had smoke showing and all of a sudden it's gone, do not slow people down until you've investigated, because it went vent limited as soon as they forced that door open. They had a working kitchen fire.
I think we're on the same page about this. I mean, you can get different perspectives from all different officers of, slow everybody to routine. We don't have anything. I mean, until you figure out the problem, that's what I subscribe to. Until you figure out the problem and you can say this is what it is, keep them coming.
Problem is you're not always getting your first, second, third due. So a month ago, it was me going to Abilene and Alameda with engine 13, engine 15, truck 14, and truck 2. That was the run card to Abilene and Alameda. You have to keep people coming because you may not get the closest companies on your call. If you slow them down and then you got to get them back up after you started the ticker on the 60 to 90 seconds, you're in trouble.
I mean, that's your help. You want them there. If they show up on scene, that's more help on scene. It's especially for an acting officer. That's people you can go to if you need help. You need a truck there to help you investigate. There might be some more experience there. So I personally would recommend don't slow people until you know for sure what it is. So it's just a close-up of it, describing the same thing. Again, it's that ventilation. Remember, that ventilation can be considered anything. Force entry. It can be natural ventilation. It can be, the fire blows the window out. That's vent. And then it goes to flashover. And roof vent. even from a fully developed fire, you're still gonna get an increase if you don't have the right things in place, like a hose line to put the fire out. You're still gonna get an increase in fire conditions if you ventilate the roof. You coordinate roof ventilation, and it's very effective. Any questions on that? Second one is know where the fire's at. Okay, and we'll talk about wind a little bit too, because that's becoming an issue. Becomes an issue on, especially on wildland fires too, but especially, Nines a few years back had the 3 or 4 buildings on fire, full 3-story buildings on fire because of the wind. So be aware of that. But you never want to be between where the fire is and where it wants to go without water or a door to close. Where the fire is and where it wants to go is called the flow path. So you're crawling in, searching, getting to the fire. I mean, it's going to go from high pressure to low pressure. Room fills up with smoke. It's getting high pressure. It's going to find low pressure. It's going to find somewhere to go. It's going to build up. If it ventilates, then maybe that low pressure is outside. I'm not sure, but more of the times than not, in a single-family house or residential, it's going to spread throughout the house. It's going to create a flow path, and it's probably coming out the door you open up. So just know when you force entry that now you've created that flow path, and be prepared for the fire to grow and build and come to you. This is actually a pretty good video. You probably remember it, but it talks about, Dan Matrick talks about the research on flow path and wind-driven fires, and it's the Vandalia Avenue fire from New York. A couple firefighters died, even with a couple 2.5s. That's not working anymore.
So here's a wind-driven case, the first one that I was involved with, where flow path became a big issue. Vandalia Avenue in New York City. You look at the apartment building on the downwind side and on the upwind side, and you see that there's soot stains that are pretty similar. And so one of the questions was, geez, which of these from outside, which one is the fire apartment? The fire apartment was on the upwind side. And a little old lady lived there. She just got new carpeting. She was going to have a party, a little get-together, wine and cheese party with some of her neighbors. This was a senior living facility. And so she had the fact that the new carpet kept her front door open wasn't a big issue for her. It was actually going to work out for her that night. The self-door closers weren't going to get the door closed tonight because of the new high pile on her new carpet. And so the door was open. And around 11:30 or so in the evening, one of her neighbors noticed that she was relaxing on a sofa in front of these windows having a cigarette. By 4:30 in the morning, the fire alarms in the building go off. And the fire department arrives, and Lieutenant Cavalieri, Firefighter Bohan, and Firefighter Bopp come in from the elevator lobby and start making their way down the hallway. They were accompanied by a captain from an engine company. He left them at that point. They looked down the hall, a little bit of smoke, not too bad. Let's go see what we need to do. There's a lady in the apartment next to the fire department, and she calls 911. She's in a wheelchair and she needs to be rescued. And so a crew comes up the stairs here, and they bring her out, and she's treated for smoke inhalation and released that day. There's a little old guy in this apartment down here. Now, he's getting some smoke in his apartment. He doesn't like that. So apparently when he's had smoke in his apartment before cooking or whatnot, what he did to get rid of it was open the windows. Well, now, this is the upwind side, high pressure, and this is the downwind side, low pressure. Right? So just like hot goes to cold, high pressure always goes to low pressure. So when he opens that window, he creates a flow path. Right? And so that flow path is now coming from the fire apartment down the hall and out of his apartment. So he's getting more smoke in his apartment. So he decides he's going to leave. So he opens his apartment door. He gets even more smoke. He doesn't like that. He leaves his apartment door open and he goes into his bedroom and he safely rides out the fire. So now firefighter Bohan, firefighter Bob, and Lieutenant Cavalieri are between where the fire is and where the fire wants to go. They're in this area here. When the window fails on this fire apartment, that heat release rate of the fire increases due to the increased level of oxygen. The fire comes out the hall due to the pressure from the wind. The fire gets driven out into the hall, and as a result, Lieutenant Cavalieri, firefighter Bohan, firefighter Bob died. Firefighter Bob got a mayday off very quickly. Firefighters here now open this door again, and as was.
So they pull up, they advance in, and this fails. So before you had nothing on the backside that was going to give you a flow path through those open front doors and the open garage. Then that fails. Now you've got a huge flow path. I mean, it's just it's a borderline. It's a campfire with maybe like a little bit of paper on top. And they made a couple vent holes to try to chase it. I think it started right in here actually, bathroom vent possibly. But you have, I think, a firefighter that died off the hose line here, and a firefighter that died off the hose line here. So these are guys that are on the hose line. Mike Vandalia, they're on the hose line. They've got the water to put out the fire. They don't have enough water. It's so intense that they bail on the hose line. So they have the tools to put out the fire, but they bail off of it. So a lot of ceiling pulls, failed ceiling. That's where they think it is, in a closet or was in the bathroom fan. So this is looking from the Charlie side. You have all those flow paths to contend with. Through the kitchen, out the garage door, and out the front door. So you pull up, keep in mind, you got doors open already, or garage doors open on the front side. That's part of the equation. If you got something on the opposite side for wind driven, or even on a side door, blowing in the Bravo side, that's going to create a flow path. It's just more of an awareness. It's not like you're going to go up and, okay, let's close this garage, let's close everything. I mean, we want to teach door control, but first is, okay, I'm aware that that part of the equation is there. And, I mean, if something happens, okay, I'm kind of expecting. So this is when they went to Chicago, and this went to Chicago. And this is what I was talking about with Christina earlier, as far as the video that shows smoke showing, you got a header en route. It becomes vent controlled because it just doesn't have enough oxygen, and then your header's gone. And it's right around 3.5, 4 minutes. So then you get on scene, you pull up to the door, you're like, nothing's showing. You open the door, and now you got fire blowing out, smoke building. I'll show a close-up of it after this video, because then they show a close-up of the actual door opening, and you see the smoke tunnel. And that's what you want to realize. That's what you want to pay attention to as an officer. It's like, okay, it's in training air, so fire's building. We've got something building somewhere. So that happens when you open the door, close it. You don't have a hose line, close it. I know what you got, and reset. Hopefully you can see the smoke stains, see what's going on here. You recognize that there might be something. and you don't make that mistake. But if you do, correct the mistake. That's the biggest thing. Don't freak out. Don't let it snowball into an avalanche. Close the door, fix the problem, and then get to work. Again, that was, I think, 96 seconds before it flashed when they opened the door. And there's a straight stream to the ceiling. Still a lot of work there, but that's the application right there. Solid stream. Again, from that, no smoke showing means nothing. Don't slow people until you know what it is. Especially if somebody reported header, something's going on. You get there, investigate it, and then go from there.
Did you talk about from that one, about how just because you got smoke showing from there, that's not necessarily indicative of where your fire is?
Oh, we can go back to them.
Just making sure, and where was it that captain?
Well, so they lit, they lit this fire on the first floor, and you've got smoke showing out of that second story window.
Don't get caught up in what you see. That may have just been the only vent hole. And there was a mayday. I'm trying to think what department it was, where the crew goes inside. They immediately head up the stairs. They start checking bedrooms. They have smoke showing from the second story bedroom window, just like that. It's actually a kitchen fire. It's laying there, just sitting there waiting for them. One of the firefighters on a 360 smashes out the back sliding glass window. In 90 seconds, it's up the stairs and in that bedroom where they're searching. Two of them come out, run out. The other one, the captain, he curls up in a corner and decides, I'm just going to die here. At some point, he hears his wife and starts thinking about his kids, and he runs through the fire out the back door, and they find him smoldering in the backyard, alive, burned. The moral of the story is just because you have smoke showing from there doesn't mean that's where your fire is. Make sure you're clearing everything before you head up. Make sure you're not going past fire to go where the smoke's showing.
So this is what it looked like when they opened the door. So that's that smoke tunneling in the fire's building. So you have to get low to see it, but you should see, oh, it's not just lifting and clearing. It lifts momentarily, but then it starts entraining air. That's your sign that the fire's building. And you're on the clock, 60 to 90 seconds. Coordination is huge. Just like horizontal ventilation, vertical ventilation, both effective tactics, but we have to coordinate. We discussed it to lengths at that in-service. We really never changed anything we're doing, other than I think crews are more aware nowadays. But some departments actually coordinate that on the radio. You know, you see the videos of a firefighter waiting on the fire escape, just waiting for minutes for the hose line to get in place. And that's the kind of discipline we're talking about when you're going to vent. Make sure that everybody on scene, including the incident commander, knows what your plan is, and you're all on the same page. You might be on the roof, and you might have cut your hole, but wait to punch it in. Know that. Now, a lot of times, like 8s, 2s, all those double company houses, they work together, they train together, they got it. But 15s and whoever, 13s and truck 2 coming in to Abilene and Alameda. Now you've got to really pay attention, because you just don't know how fast those crews move. You don't know where they're going to be or what they're thinking. But if that's the plan, then you've got to get on the same page, and then you've got to make sure it's coordinated. And if it's over the radio, that's fine. Command the hole's cut or ready to punch in, let us know. If you can't see steam conversion or you can't hear application of water, but a really good thing to pay attention to as an officer on the radio is water on fire. If you're on the truck or you're whatever, doing vent, doing something on the exterior, once you hear water on fire, then you know, okay, they're in place. It gives you a good idea. And your 360, no matter what position you're in, if you don't take command, if you're second duty, you should still do your 360. You should know, every officer should do a 360. Unless there's that immediate rescue that you need to throw a ladder to. If you're splitting your crew or whatever you're doing, you should do it. If you're vertically mounted, you should still do a 360.
There's no good reason to not do a 360. We get jammed up when we don't do 360. You miss something. And it's usually because you hear the next due engine pulling up, air brake setting, and you're trying to hustle because you don't want somebody to take your fire. That's why we stage. And we are continually working on the discipline of staging so that you get a chance to get a quick peek at your fire so you can set a plan. Because once you set the plan in place, it's like taking a cruise ship and trying to turn that thing around. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. So take the time to set a plan.
So this is Governor's Island, and just pay attention to the middle here. You know, front door open. This is the front hallway, and you can see all the exit points. Charlie side, Alpha side. So front door hallway. But just watch it. It's a good video to show you as you make openings, the fire's going to build. If you close them, it slows the growth down. You vent the roof, and you can see the smoke tunneling. If there's nothing in place, roof ventilation will actually increase the fire more than any other type of ventilation if you have nothing in place. So that's why, you know, going to the roof cut hole, yeah, it's a great job, but it's serious. It's serious. Recorded, so.
If you're assigned level 1 staging, so you're on scene, but you're going to wait to start your activities, is it okay as the officer to hop out and do a 360?
Sure, I think so. I mean, it depends on where you're at. I mean, are you the first truck and engine in level 1 staging, or are they already on scene? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about level 1, level 2 staging, remember that first alarm assignment. Let's just pretend it's 2 engines, 2 trucks, and the chief. So your engine, your truck, and your VC will proceed to the scene, set up like, you know, so other rigs can come in, and then your second engine would hopefully be at a hydrant, and then the truck would give themselves straight access on the scene. So, you know, I think, you know, that's just so that common sense, I have to say, is it's not, there's a gray area too. It's, okay, well, I see fire here, I see where the scene's going. Yeah, I'd want to get a one-up on it. Hey guys, hang here. If I can get back to the truck, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it just gives you more information. You know, it's like the whole thing, if you're staging for water supply, well, let's get out and flush the hydrant. Let's be ready, so then we don't have to play catch up. And we already touched on this, but remember, forcing a door, you got to think of it as ventilation. Control that. You limit the air intake. You're going to limit the size of the fire, and you're going to slow the growth of the fire. This is what we're teaching. Still teach it in the academy. It's not as much of a new thing anymore. I think people understand it. And if you know, a crew of 4 can do this. If you got 2 people, you could be limited. I mean, you know, some volunteer, slower rural area departments, one guy's pumping, one guy's on the hose line. But with 4 people, this can be done. And then once water's on the fire, we don't have to, fire's under control, we don't have to worry about that as much. But it's just something to think of. Whether you're pulling a hose line, whether you're forcing a door, think of that door control. Think of the flow path. Sometimes it's not always possible. You know, a lot of people got to get in, you're taking a victim out. I mean, the worst thing you can do is a crew's bringing a victim out and you got somebody who's so stuck on door control that they're not moving the door open and you're fighting with them. You've got to have this global view of what's more important in this case. So shooting for 2/3 closed, 1/3 open. So they set the fire about 8 minutes. Both clocks are 8 minutes in. And then they just open the door on the right, and they've got 1/3 of the door open on the left to simulate a hose line door. You see with the one on the right, now we're at 9:45. starting to build, and now we're flashing. So right at 2 minutes, we flashed. We're at 4 minutes on the door control side from the time they opened it, a third of the way. You can see you got visible flames behind. So I mean, we'll go with 4 minutes there. 2 more minutes of time with audio. This will show you the effects on the temperature rise with door control. You can see again here, you open it on a 1 story where this is 8 minutes and 30 seconds here. We're right shy of 10. So that's that rapid rise, the flash over that we saw in the graph. And then you can see out here, we get to the same temperature, 400 degrees, almost 3 minutes later. And then on a 2 story, it just stays, it levels off when you have the door control. Any questions on that? That's going to be something that's, like Chief was saying, that's where your global view gets out here. When you're on a fire scene, that's the stuff you want to think about rather than, okay, I've got people who can put water on the fire, but I'm looking to see what's going on above me as we're rolling over, looking back to see, okay, can we eliminate flow paths? Do we have it above us? Do we need to ventilate? All that stuff is what you need to pay attention to. It's going to help you out. I'm going to I don't think there's that many more slides in this part, so we'll just push through it and we'll take a break. And we'll come back and go. Basement fires. If you notice, if anybody has seen new accepted practices that we've been talking about a little bit, we want to make sure that on our 360s we're airing yes or no basement. So you know there's not one, we want to say there's no presence of a basement. You get crawl spaces important because there's still that gap beneath somebody can fall into. So you want to pick those up because a lot of times we're getting caught above a basement fire and we don't know it. Think about the operational time frames of the floor joists. What's interesting is, dimensional lumber, which we talk about, that'll give us 15 minutes, right? And it's average, but their test showed as little as 7. So you're right in that 5, all these are right in that 5 to 10 minute range. I mean, hybrid trusses, you're screwed. So no matter what. But the one that lasted the longest was also the one that failed the shortest. So there's no reliability. So you've got to take a 360, you've got to see where it's at because sometimes in a basement, you need to find another means of entrance and go across the fire, crawling over the fire to get down into the stairwell. Sometimes that's the only option, but other times if you do a good 360, maybe there's a garden level entrance on the Charlie side through a sliding door. Couple examples. Cherry Road Townhouse Fire and Diamond Heights Fire. So both times a couple firefighters died because, one time it was accidentally vented and the other time, somebody blew out the sliding glass door. They're crawling down into the basement, they're in that chimney, and then ventilation, unintentional or intentional, happens. They get caught in the flow path. They're on hose lines, they're on air, they've got air in their bottle, they have the tool to put out the fire. They're not out of air, and they just get burned up. That's how intense it is. So if you're on the exterior, especially, I know it's not preached anymore, and it's definitely talked about. Hey, let's not just go around. I mean, you guys split your crew all the time, and that has to be talked about all the time. It's like you just don't arbitrarily vent because stuff like this will happen. So all the truck companies are going through that thought process. If you're an engine company, you should be training on ventilation too. Because you could be Rick. When second alarm, third alarms happen, when there's 2 houses on fire one time, then guess what? Now now your end company, your exterior vent. Question on that? All right, so as you're talking about earlier, Kelly, stream application, kind of covered that, so I won't go over it again, but no, you're not pushing fire, but you're going to push those gases that are ready to light off to an area where they can. If you entrain air and if you use a fog, or if you encircle your solid stream and create that air pushing it. Some things to think about. I think this water application at the eave, I think Hamilton did it, didn't he?
Hamilton did it and it worked.
So let me show you that. You know, those attic fires sometimes tough to get to. Can you apply it without going inside? Can you do something before a vertical vent can reach the roof?
Alright, what we're going to do here is we're going to simulate an attic fire. One way you can do it with a 2.5 inch, instead of going inside and pulling sealant and being too labor, you can just put it right here through the outside, right through the heat, through the soffit, so without even having to pull any soffits. Go ahead and demonstrate that, just to let you know how much water we can get into the attic, how efficient it is. Alright?
Alright, we're gonna first show that the soffits are pretty much in good condition. And there is some sealing pulled already, so we'll be able to watch the water go over our heads. Make it right above this top of the wall there. We're also going to see how efficiently it makes it all the way to the opposite side of the house and through the other side eaves and soffits. And again, here we have some soffits that are, for the most part, intact. So let's go watch now. We're going to go right there and hit it. Alright. We're going to go here or there.
Okay, what do you want to do?
Either one. Go over here, and I'll stay out of the way. You can see the water coming out of the feet fixtures already. There's the water coming out of that kitchen light right there. And obviously the water's made it all the way to this side of the structure.
So another tool for the toolbox. I mean, it's not something we're going to use regularly, but I mean, what do you got to worry about when you're putting that much water up there? Yeah, I mean, it's going to take the water. You know, not all the water's coming out the other side, so you're going to probably have some ceiling collapse inside. That might not be indicative of a structural collapse, but you're putting that much water in there. UL NIST did water eve application as well, some tests. But this will give you an idea of what it looks like actually in the attic space itself. So it can reach through, and that's just through the same, you know, typical construction, eaves, overhangs that they just go through with the 2.5. Any question on the exterior water application after Other questions with that? So we just use an example of a fire that now retired Chief Sayre went on, and this is what we had showing up. I believe it was Sevens went on this, and here's a stairwell leading up to the third floor. Here's your fire apartment. So they're originally going to go up through that stairwell with the hose line, you know, that was going to be their only attack line. Sayre pulls up and says, hey, let's hit that on the exterior at the same time. So they hit that, and what they did is they actually hit that and took the same line in. So that's an option for you too. But what if you can put two lines right there? What if you can take the bumper line right to there? And you can put water on it while two other guys take it up to the third floor. And then when they're ready at the front door, then you can shut that down, a third one coming back up. Or he can stay there and just keep it in check in case it gets out of hand. What's that? Exactly. So, and then you can stretch dry at the third floor instead of having to stretch the charge line because you're putting water there. It's all in the possibilities, all in the decision. So they put water on it, they reset it, and they go in, and they confine it to that apartment. So how long did it take them to deploy up the stairwell? I mean, probably 2 minutes, at least. You know, from the point where they would have been at the front lawn, they could put water there. If they would have just gone up the stairwell, it would have been at least 2 minutes later. And it used to be a couple of years ago, fire grows doubles every 30 seconds. Now they're saying it's every 17. So that's a big fire at that point. That's it for that. So when we talk about go, no go after this, there'll just be a lot of scenarios, and we'll start talking about, okay, what can you assign your crew to do? Should you be going in? What type of tactics should you think about using? Hopefully it'll build on this, because exterior water application transitional attack is something you definitely want to think about, but sometimes it's not appropriate at the same time. Sometimes it's the only thing we can do, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Okay, let's just push in and see what we've got. Room of contents, let's go put it out. All right?
Sometimes it's more than putting exterior water on the fire, it's protecting an exterior exposure. It's on that Iowa Drive, if I'm putting water on that, I'm keeping it from getting up in the attic. Now I have an apartment fire, not a